Welcome back. Today, we are cracking the code on pedigree diagrams. I know. When you first look at one, all those squares and circles and lines can feel a little intimidating, but you are in exactly the right place. Stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll be solving these things like it's second nature. Let's dive in.
Has this ever happened to you? You're working your way through a pedigree, you make one tiny little mistake right at the very beginning, and then everything else just falls apart. It's so frustrating, right? Well, you're not just imagining it. Biology educator Miss Angler actually calls this the domino effect, and it's a huge reason why so many people get tripped up on these questions. But don't worry. Today, we're going to build a rock-solid, systematic approach to make sure that never happens to you again. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about why these look like a puzzle. Then we'll decode the basic symbols, the language of pedigrees. After that, I'm going to walk you through a foolproof three-step method. Then we'll cover some pro-level shortcuts to get to you the answer even faster. And finally, we'll put it all together to crush a real exam question. Okay, first things first. We have to learn the language. Think of these symbols as the alphabet of genetics. Once you know what they mean, you can read any family tree they can throw at you. So let's break it down. It's actually pretty simple. Squares are always males, circles are always females. Now, if a shape is filled in, that means the person is affected. They have the trait we're looking at. If it's empty, they're unaffected. And that half-shaded one? Ooh, that's a golden clue. That means they're a carrier. They have the allele, but they don't show the trait themselves. Now, how do they all connect? Well, a horizontal line between a square and a circle, that's a partnership, a mating line. The vertical line that drops down from them leads to their kids. And all those kids are connected by what's called a sibship line. And see those Roman numerals off to the side? That's just how we keep the generations straight. Generation 1 at the top, then 2, then 3, and so on. All right, now that you speak the language, let's get into our three-step master method. This is the system that's going to stop that domino effect cold. It's a reliable process that guides you straight to the right answer every single time. Here are the steps. 1. Figure out the mode of inheritance. Is it dominant? Recessive? Is it on an autosome or is it X-linked? 2. Fill in the genotypes for the easy ones, the people you know for sure just by looking. And 3, the really clever part, use the kids to work backwards and figure out the parents' genotypes when you're not sure. Now, how do you tell if it's dominant or recessive? This is probably the most important trick. Look at the clue on the right. See that? You have 2 unaffected parents, the unshaded shapes, who have an affected child, the shaded shape. If you see that pattern, it is a 100% giveaway that the trait has to be recessive. It's the biggest clue you can find. Next up, autosomal or X-linked. For autosomal traits, it usually hits males and females pretty equally. But with X-linked traits, you'll often see way more of one sex affected. But the real killer clue is transmission. A father gives his Y chromosome to his sons, right? Not his X. So if you ever spot an affected dad who has an affected son, it cannot be X-linked. That's proof of male-to-male transmission. And this quote from Miss Angler perfectly sums up step 3 of our method. The children are the key. If you're stuck trying to figure out a parent's genotype, look at their kids. The kids can reveal hidden alleles in the parents. You just have to learn to work backwards. Okay, you've got the master method down. You can solve any pedigree now. But what if you want to solve them faster, with more confidence? Let's level up with some pro shortcuts that are perfect for when the clock is ticking in an exam. Acing Medicine has this brilliant 2-step algorithm. First, scan the pedigree for our golden rule. Unaffected parents with an affected kid. If you see it, it's recessive. If you don't, it's probably dominant. Then, for step 2, you just check the transmission. For dominant, look for father to son. For recessive, see if it's mostly males being affected. That's a huge hint for X-linked. And to quickly check for X-linked patterns, these mnemonics from Dirty Medicine are absolute gold. Just remember FDD, father, daughter, dominant. If a trait is X-linked dominant, an affected dad must pass it to all of his daughters, no exceptions. And MSR, mother-son recessive. If a mom has an X-linked recessive trait, all of her sons have to get it. These are fantastic for quickly ruling things in or out. All right, enough with the theory. The best way to learn this stuff is to actually do it. So let's put our new skills into practice and walk through a classic exam question that uses these exact same concepts. Okay, here's our problem. We've got Lyle.
He's deaf, and the question tells us that's a recessive trait, so his genotype is easy, 2 lowercase h's. He marries a woman who is homozygous dominant for hearing, so her genotype is 2 uppercase h's. The question, what's the percentage chance they have a child who is also deaf?
To figure this out, we bring in our old friend, the Punnett square. We'll put the mother's possible gametes, both are a capital H, across the top. And we'll put Lyle's gametes, both are a lowercase h, down the side. Then you just fill in the boxes, combining the letter from the top and the letter from the side.
And look at that. Every single one of the 4 boxes gives us the exact same result, a heterozygous genotype, 1 capital H and 1 lowercase h. Now, because that capital H for hearing is the dominant allele, the phenotype, what you actually see, for all their kids will be hearing. They will all be carriers, but none of them will actually be deaf.
So the final answer to the question, the percentage chance of them having a deaf child, is 0. A big fat 0%. It's just not genetically possible for this couple. And remember, in an exam, this single number is often what everything is building towards.
And speaking of marks, please don't leave easy points on the table. To get a perfect score on a question like this, you usually need to show all your work, the parental genotypes, the gametes, the offspring genotypes. But that final percentage, that is very often a compulsory mark. If you leave it out, you cannot get full credit, no matter how good the rest of your work is.
So there you have it. The symbols, the master method, the pro-level shortcuts, and a real-world application. We've gone from that confusing domino effect to a clear, step-by-step solution. The next time you see a pedigree diagram, you'll know exactly what to do. The only question left is, are you ready to solve any pedigree they throw at you?